I struck the first blow in the back of her head because that was what was available. Since she did not react to that, took her from sleep straight to unconsciousness. It wasn't bang, 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 bang. It was bang. Oh, what I do now, I hit her in the two frontal lobes, kind of more on top, because I knew that that would preclude any consciousness. I grabbed some big trash bags, pulled one over her head. I was going to put the other one over her feet. I used that extending cord to kind of hold her up like this. I rolled the body onto a sheet, pulled her off of the bed onto the floor, and then dragged the sheet. Basically, the sheet there, she's there, back up, pull it to me. Only took about, it was only about 10 feet.
Then he stuffs the wrapped body of Nancy Pfister in her bedroom closet.
There's part of me that can't believe I did it.
She grew up entitled, she grew up spoiled, and she lived her life as she should have, entitled and spoiled.
Like a princess, according to Nancy's close pal of 40 years, Bob Browdis, a former Aspen sheriff, art dealer, and local cultural icon who is thought of as the unofficial mayor.
She definitely was born into royalty here in our little town.
Nancy's father, Art, was one of the men who helped build Aspen back in the 60s. A moneyed landowner who was the king of Buttermilk Mountain, turning it into one of the town's first and most elite ski resorts for the rich and famous.
Her father and mother were very, very well known in the whole community. They started Aspen.
And Nancy became the queen of the hill, a social butterfly who made partying her career.
When she walked into a dull party, you knew the evening was going to become more interesting.
But this party at Nancy's own home on Buttermilk Mountain would be like no other bash Nancy had ever thrown or attended. It was a farewell soiree for the social queen of Aspen before she was to fly south for the winter to an Australian summer. But this farewell would be far more permanent than any could have imagined.
Little did we know that was the last time any of us were ever going to see her alive again.
Oh my God, ma'am, I need you to take a deep breath.
Jet-set socialite Nancy Pfister was murdered just days after returning to Aspen from a 3-month getaway to sunny Australia.
She had texted me an hour before she was murdered, basically saying that jet lag had crippled her and she was finally getting to sleep.
But Nancy would never wake up.
You then would have been one of the last people to communicate with Nancy.
Yes, that was her last living act as far as they could discover, doing a timeline of the crime.
While many loved Nancy and found amusement in her wild life of sex, drugs and fun parties, there were also those who were not so fond of her, especially other women.
Nancy would sit on your lap right in front of your wife, and she did that repeatedly and got away with it at the cost of losing a lot of female friends.
One of the women police considered a suspect in Nancy's murder was Kathy Carpenter, who acted as Nancy's assistant, and they reportedly bumped heads frequently.
The relationship with Kathy Carpenter was very stormy.
There was some talks of how Nancy Pfister treated Kathy, and at some points it wasn't very nice. There was some disputes that they had, and so there was some concern on our part that she had possibly been involved in the murder.
Another woman considered a suspect in Nancy Pfister's murder was Nancy Styler, along with her retired doctor husband William, better known as Trey. The three had been locked in a bitter money dispute.
So it was no secret that there was a great deal of animosity between the Stylers and Nancy Pfister.
Trey and Nancy, a noted horticulturalist, had only recently arrived in Aspen from Denver, hoping to start a new life after losing just about everything they owned from bad investments.
You're in this situation where life is perfect, and then all of a sudden one little thing happens.
The Stylers decided to use what little cash they had left to start a Botox and laser spa in Aspen. New to town and full of optimism about their fresh start, the Stylers answered an ad in the Aspen Times that led them here to the base of Buttermilk Mountain and a fork in the road. In hindsight, they took the wrong turn, driving up West Buttermilk Road to Nancy Pfister's home, which she was trying to rent for the time she would be in Australia.
Walked upstairs and we're greeted by Nancy in a white, like hotel bathrobe, strand of pearls, glass of pink champagne, and nothing else.
The Stylers immediately agreed to rent the 3-bedroom, 3-bath chalet for $12,000 for 3 months. And Nancy Pfister threw in a bonus. The Stylers could stay there with her for free for a month before she left for Australia, and even start up their spa there in return for helping her pack and prepare for the trip.
And I thought, this is great.
But it wasn't just helping Nancy Pfister pack.
The minute I gave her the money, I became a slave.
And Pfister would parade around naked in front of Trey.
It would have made a lot of people jealous.
Of her? Sorry. I was not jealous of her.
So the Stylers breathed a big sigh of relief when Nancy Pfister finally left for Australia and they had the house to themselves.
And I was thrilled when I heard she was in Australia.
But their joy would be short-lived. Nancy Pfister accused them in a series of emails of damaging the property and not paying utilities, threatening to sue them for $14,000 and giving them 4 days' notice to vacate the house before she returned early from Australia.
We did our best to try and get out of there.
Then moved into a nearby motel. And days after Nancy Pfister returns to Aspen, she's found dead. But when her assistant, Kathy Carpenter, hasn't seen or heard from her boss for 3 days, she goes to the socialite's house to check on her. There's no sign of Nancy anywhere. Just a rancid smell coming from the bedroom closet. And when Kathy opens the closet door,
No! Oh my God.
Kathy is hysterical in her call to 911.
My friend, I got my friend in the closet. Ma'am, I need you to take a deep breath so that I can send you help. I need you to tell me exactly what happened. I got my friend in the closet.
And those very words immediately make Kathy Carpenter a suspected murderer.
The odd thing was there was no way she could have seen that it was Nancy Pfister. When you went into the closet and you saw what was in there, it looked like a pile of laundry.
Nancy Pfister's body had been completely wrapped in sheets.
Unless you pulled back the sheets and actually looked at what was there, you did not know that it was a person. She insisted that she saw this while insisting that she had not touched any of the sheets. She had not moved anything. She had not pulled it back.
Making Kathy look more guilty, cops learned she had taken $6,000 and 2 valuable rings from Nancy Pfister's safety deposit box the very next day.
Kathy Carpenter had access to it. She had the key and she could definitely go in and out of it. But to empty out that box was very, very strange. I don't think of that as something you would do after you find that your friend is dead, to take those valuables and secret them.
What was the motive you believed at the time, for example, with Kathy?
It was odd. Was she somehow taking money from Nancy Pfister? Or did she get caught up in the animosity?
Kathy Carpenter had already pointed the finger at Trey and Nancy Styler in her 911 call.
My friend came back from Australia, and she had some people living there, and she made threats to them about owing money.
And she elaborates during her police interrogation.
There was bad blood between them.
At 5:30 in the morning, police turn up at the door of the Stylers' motel room.
I truly thought that I was dreaming. And one of the guys said, "No, there's a dead body." And I said, "What? Who?"
And it will be learned Nancy Styler had actually threatened to kill Nancy Pfister.
I did say that.
Now, Trey and Nancy Styler have both been taken in for questioning. But Trey, at age 65, frail and suffering from a debilitating neurological disease, didn't seem strong enough to commit the crime, at least on his own. To pack her body into trash bags, wrap it in sheets, drag it to the bedroom closet, and then flip her mattress over to hide the bloodstains.
Is that something that you accepted that he was physically capable of?
Not at the time. Carrying a dead body, even if you drag it into the closet, it's not an easy job for one person. Flipping a queen mattress from one side to the other, doable, because I've done it myself. For him to do that by himself would have been very difficult.
Of more interest to cops was Nancy Styler, whose animosity towards Pfister was no secret. And just as Pfister's assistant, Kathy Carpenter, had pointed the finger at the Stylers, Nancy Styler was now pointing her finger back at her for the Pfister murder.
I thought that she and Kathy had a major fight. And I thought that Kathy had gotten drunk, blacked out, killed her.
But Kathy had never threatened to kill Pfister. On the other hand, Nancy Styler had.
What was the motive there?
Nancy Styler had made some comments to the effect that she would rather see Nancy Pfister dead.
She'd expressly said she would like to kill her.
There was motivation there, for sure, just like her husband, Trey.
And Nancy, surprisingly, denies none of it when I ask her about her hatred for Pfister.
On reflection, one of the interrogators looked back and said, the most striking thing from the interview with Nancy, with yourself, was this overwhelming hatred, as they described it, that you had for the victim, for Nancy.
I think that I was very honest with them when they said to me, "Did you like her?" And I said, "No, I hated her."
You said more than that. You said she's a liar, she's an alcoholic.
She disrespected me like no other person has ever done. And that was all honest. What was I supposed to say? No, I never said that? I did say it. But that doesn't mean I was going to kill her.
Without enough evidence to link them to the murder, the Stylers are released after 12 hours of questioning, but remain under heavy suspicion, as does Kathy Carpenter.
We're looking at all three. That's our job. We've got to look at all three.
Police don't know if one of them did it alone, if another had helped, or if they had all done it together.
These three people might have been bonded together by their hatred for Nancy.
Yeah, they could have definitely developed a bond through this animosity.
Then a huge discovery. A trash collector empties out a garbage can just 100 yards from the Stylers' motel and finds personal items belonging to Nancy Pfister and an old hammer with Nancy Pfister's blood on it. And on one of the plastic bags is Trey Styler's DNA.
It broke the case.
And Nancy Pfister's blood is found in the trunk of the Stylers' car.
That was also a big piece of evidence.
But there was still more to be uncovered. The key to the bedroom closet where Nancy Pfister's body was found.
Amazingly, the key was ultimately found outside of the door of their hotel room in Basalt.
Nancy Styler's defense attorney, Garth McCarty, suspects all the evidence may have been planted.
I think everybody, including law enforcement, was a little suspicious at first that it was actually just found by chance.
Police arrest Trey and Nancy Styler and charge them with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. And 11 days later, they arrest Kathy Carpenter on the same charges. The Stylers and Carpenter sit behind bars for 3 months before they turn up in handcuffs for their first court appearance. In a written affidavit, Trey Styler has confessed to murdering Nancy Pfister on his own without the knowledge or help of his wife Nancy or Kathy Carpenter, who both emerged from court free women.
I mean, I'm hysterical. I'm wondering, did he do anything here, or is he just falling on his sword?
A lot of other people in Aspen are still asking the exact same question and more.
I would say there's a very strong, pervasive opinion among those who are familiar with the case that Nancy Styler beat a murder rap.
But nobody saw this next bombshell coming.
Do you actually believe Trey's confession?
I believe most of it. Again, I question whether he did the cleanup alone, but I don't have anything to say he didn't.
But at least the police had their killer, and the 2 women charged along with him, his wife Nancy and Pfister's assistant Kathy Carpenter, had been set free. But former Sheriff Bob Browdus is among those who still thinks Nancy Styler got away with murder.
I do believe that Nancy Styler was with Dr. Styler when Nancy Pfister was murdered.
Browdus bases his suspicions on evidence that Nancy Styler's cell phone was emitting signals from Nancy Pfister's home at the same time Trey Styler said he was there, murdering the socialite. Dr. Styler explained it away by saying he had taken his sleeping wife's phone on the morning of the killing because his own phone had a low battery.
I can't see Dr. Styler leaving his wife in a motel room 20 miles away and taking her phone with him.
But District Attorney Sherry Kaloya says she couldn't disprove Dr. Styler's story about the phone and therefore prove his wife was there with him.
I always will question whether he cleaned up the site after the murder himself, but I do believe he committed the murder by himself.
But now, Crime Watch Daily has uncovered a bombshell piece of evidence only a scarce few knew even existed.
The first blow, I can't say that I was giving any great thought to what I was doing or how I was doing it.
A second confession he made in prison just months before he killed himself.
There's part of me that can't believe I did it.
Unlike his original confession, which was made in a written affidavit, this new confession is a chilling 8-hour-long video that shows Dr. Styler giving a gruesome play-by-play of the murder that could finally erase all doubts about his guilt and whether he had accomplices.
Nancy and Will would both be better off believing things were as they seemed.
The anatomy of a murder.
I struck the first blow in the back of her head because that was what was available.
Coldly chronicled in gruesome clinical detail by the mad doctor who beat Aspen socialite Nancy Pfister to death with a hammer.
It wasn't bang, 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 bang. It was bang. And what I do now.
His dying confession captured in a chilling 8-hour interview. And Nancy Styler would sit at my side to watch her late husband's final testament.
So Nancy, what I'm about to show you, this is going to be the first time that you've seen this video. So this is going to be a difficult thing for you to watch. It's going to be very emotional material. And I want you to know that if it becomes overwhelming at any point, we can pause. Okay, we're going to watch it now.
God, I wish it never happened. But it did.
Nancy is immediately taken aback by how Trey's physical appearance has deteriorated since she last saw him.
I mean, he doesn't look like himself. Got the long beard, the hair is long. Looks totally different, sounds totally different.
Trey remembers leaving his wife asleep in their motel room while he goes to confront Nancy Pfister over their eviction from her house, her demands for $14,000 in utility costs and property damage, and her refusal to let them retrieve beauty spa equipment they'd left in her basement.
I remember going there with the intention of talking to her. I was angry with her and intended to challenge her and to demand that she retract her demands for more money. I intended to confront her and to demand that she back down.
When he arrives at the Pfister home, Trey knocks on the door, gets no response, and notices the door is unlocked.
I remember calling her name, coming in and finding her blissfully asleep.
Trey begins to talk to Pfister, but can't wake her up.
I think there was part of me that was thinking that she was playing asleep, that she was just not responding. I've been told since that time that she had earplugs in. That's why she didn't hear me. I didn't know that at the time.
And Nancy Pfister's silence sends him into a blind rage.
She was sleeping peacefully while my life was going down the tubes. The next thing I knew, it had been done.
He'd hit Nancy Pfister in the head with a hammer he found in her house.
I struck the first blow in the back of her head because that was what was available. Since she did not react to that, took her from sleep straight to unconsciousness.
Dr. Styler takes Pfister's pulse and realizes she's not dead.
It wasn't bang, 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 bang. It was bang. Oh, and what do I do now? And then it probably took a couple of minutes before I thought, let's just make sure I hit her in the two frontal lobes. Kind of more on top. Okay. Because I knew that that would preclude any consciousness.
Can I just stop it there, Nancy? We initially wanted to explain this as a way as this, this was a man who snapped. But I mean, now we're talking about medical training, the location of the blows, a man who took her pulse after the first blow.
The doctor in him is coming out and being analytical after he's just lost his mind.
Trey grabs an extension cord as he plans what to do with Nancy Pfister's body.
I wanted to contain her and the blood so that she didn't bleed on the things, and I grabbed some big trash bags, pulled one over her head. I was going to put the other one over her feet. I used that extension cord to kind of hold her up like this. I rolled the body onto a sheet, pulled her off of the bed onto the floor, and then dragged the sheet, basically. The sheet there, she's there, grabbed the foot of the sheet, so to speak, back up, blew it to me. Only took about, it was only about 10 feet.
Can I just pause it there as well? I mean, it's so difficult to watch. It's so hard to look at. And I guess this goes to the heart of your implication in all of this, right? This rumour and this innuendo and supposition. I mean, we're looking at him now. This is a guy in a wheelchair. He certainly doesn't look in top physical condition. You knew him better than anyone. He was able to do it on his own.
Well, he did, yeah. And you look at the laws of physics. You can drag a bunch of weight rather than lift it. And it surprises me that law enforcement didn't look at it that way.
I mean, it's pretty chilling, isn't it, to see him?
Oh my God, it's horrible.
Then he stuffs the wrapped body of Nancy Pfister in her bedroom closet.
There's part of me that can't believe I did do it.
And he insists his wife had nothing to do with the murder.
One thing I know beyond doubt is that Nancy not only had no involvement in it, she had no knowledge of it.
But many still have their doubts about that, suspecting Trey was covering for the woman he loved so much that here he breaks down recalling their early courtship.
When I returned home that night, my mother was I told her I'd met the woman I didn't marry.
Could we just pause it there? I mean, you can tell you were everything to him.
Not enough. Not enough.
What do you mean by not enough?
Not enough to keep him alive. Not enough to make him want to live.
But enough for him to make a false confession just to get her off the hook?
What do you say to the people of Aspen who continue to cast doubts?
I'm seeing progress. I'm seeing people who didn't even want to look at me, who were afraid to have their children next to me, are now saying, how could we believe that of you? And there's going to be some people who don't believe me ever. And what can I say to them?
I take Nancy Styler back to the scene of the crime, the mountain home where her husband confessed he murdered Nancy Pfister.
When Trey came here and he drove down this driveway towards this place, do you think he had murder on his mind?
Oh my God, no. No, he was coming to talk to her. He didn't have murder on his mind. I asked him that over and over again, and he's reassured me that he was just coming to talk.
Instead, he beat the socialite to death with a hammer in a moment of madness that robbed Aspen of a celebrated member of one of its most prominent families.
If you need anything, just give me a holler. I'm going to be on the other side of the wall, okay?
Oh, well, how about another bottle of red wine and a pack of cigarettes? I don't remember a thing except standing over bodies with lots and lots of blood.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. But did this woman really kill her fiancé for calling off their wedding? A crazy, intoxicated interrogation room scene unfolds.
If you need anything, just give me a holler. I'm going to be on the other side of the wall, okay?
Oh, well, how about another bottle of red wine and a pack of cigarettes?
More liquor was the last thing this lovesick woman needed. Just hours earlier, her fiancé and his son were shot dead.
I don't remember a thing except standing over bodies with lots and lots of blood.
Police learned about the killings when a man calls 911.
I just had a phone call from a co-worker who tells me that she just shot and killed her boyfriend and his son.
Townsend, Vermont cops find Stephen Lott with 12 gunshot wounds. His 28-year-old son, Jameis, shot 3 times. Also at the house, Robin O'Neill.
Are both my fiancé, Steve, and his middle son, Jameis, both dead?
I don't know right now, okay?
Well, I don't see how they couldn't be.
Investigators hauled Robin in for a questioning session like no other.
Where exactly am I?
Cops realize immediately she's highly intoxicated, at times confused, at other times seemingly quite aware of the trouble she's in.
No! This can't possibly be happening.
Robin claims she didn't remember a thing, but whatever did happen, she knew she wanted to take it back.
Is there anything else I can get you?
Yesterday, thank you.
If you need some more water, let me know.
Yesterday would be very good.
If Robin wasn't going back in time, then there was something else she wanted.
Actually, if you could get me the loaded 9mm or something.
And if she had indeed killed her fiancé, Robin wanted detectives to know why.
It was this morning on our way to work that he said we were disengaged, not getting married.
It was an admission she quickly regretted.
I'm thinking this is something where I need a public defender or something because I've just given you motive.
Less than a year earlier, Robin had moved from Texas to Vermont to be with Stephen. Now he was calling off their engagement. It seemed the more she thought about her situation, the more angry she became.
I hope you're dead, because if anything, anyone who deserves to be dead in all of this, it's you, you.
Cursing 1 minute, praying the next.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us.
Then Robin told detectives how they could better understand her story.
My so-called diary and my computer could shed a whole lot of light on this.
Robin's personal diary did shed light on the case at her trial 3 years later. Prosecutors used it to document the demise of her relationship, but it turns out Robin sobered up big time.
Of course, I need a public defender.
I'm not sure what you need right now. So,
yeah, I need a public defender.
And none of her statements made to police that night could be used in court. A judge ruling detectives ignored Robin's request for an attorney and questioned her anyway. The only confession jurors heard about was the one she made to her friend the night of the murders.
She said, Steve, find my feet in a pool of blood, and Jamis is under the table in his own pool of blood.
An expert for the defense testified that Robin was creating false memories when she confessed and was testing the assertion to see if it fit. The defense reminded jurors Robin was drunk at the time and didn't remember killing anyone. They also claimed there was virtually no forensic or physical evidence against her.
DNA is a powerful new scientific tool for criminal investigations. What do you think that the law enforcement tested for DNA in this particular case?
Defense attorney Ian Carlton said there wasn't enough evidence collected to connect anyone to the murders.
They didn't test drinking glasses. There were drinking glasses all over the kitchen. There were beer cans. There were wine glasses. They didn't test cigarette butts. They didn't test doorknobs, faucets, drains.
Her defense team also argued that if Robin had been the killer, she would have been covered in blood, but there was none on her clothes.
They tested the 3 guns that were found in the kitchen. They tested the bullets that were found in the kitchen, and that's it.
Prosecutors told jurors while they may have doubts about parts of this case, there are no reasonable doubts. In the end, the jury agreed, even without seeing her initial interrogation.
Oh, well, how about another bottle of red wine and a pack of cigarettes?
Robin O'Neill was found guilty of aggravated murder, carrying an automatic sentence of life without parole. Stephen says it all started in their bedroom when Tara was unpacking from her work trip and he was naked, getting ready for bed. A fight about Tara's busy work and travel schedule ensues. The argument quickly escalates. Tara slaps him across the face, then Stephen hits her.
She fell, and she banged back her head on the floor, and then she said something like, that's it. I'm gonna take kids, you're gonna be homeless, you're a piece of and I choked her. I grabbed her neck and choked her. She finally grabbed my hand at one point, but it was too late then. I couldn't stop it. I knew I was going to prison. My parents.
Tara Grant is dead. Then, with their small children sleeping just feet away,
And I wrapped something, a belt, around her neck. I think it was my brown leather belt. And I knew I couldn't carry her, so I wrapped that around her neck and I used it to basically pull her down the stairs.
Stephen, still naked, drags Tara's body into the freezing cold garage where he struggles getting her into the back of her own truck.
And I dropped her. It was the most disgusting noise. It just sounded like dropping a watermelon on the cement. I knew then that I had killed her. I put everything, I think I put some newspaper in there because at one point there was some blood. It was real thick, like syrup.
So you had Tara's entire body in one?
In one Rubbermaid container.
A successful executive goes off the grid, and her distraught husband is at a loss.
You see her? Tell me. Please.
The family's beautiful teen nanny in the middle.
The venom just began spewing out of her mouth.
Then, the most gruesome discovery of all. Tara Grant was a beautiful and smart small-town girl with big city dreams.
In the corporate world, she kept moving up the ladder. She was a perfectionist.
But according to some, that perfectionist married her opposite, odd and awkward Stephen Grant.
He was the guy that you thought would grow up and rob a liquor store and leave his name tag on, and you'd see him on The Stupidest Criminals. Steve wasn't the most popular kid in the world. He wasn't the best looking. And so I guess when I saw his wife, I was like, wow, good job, Steve. I never thought you would get someone like Tara.
Snagging Tara was a real coup for Stephen.
Tara's success allowed them to have a very successful life. They lived in a really nice neighborhood. They drove new cars. Their children attended a private school.
But with those successes came some sacrifices.
Tara was working in San Juan and working Monday through Friday, and then she would jump on a jet Friday afternoon and go back to Detroit and spend the weekend, and then boom, back on the plane on Monday to her work life.
While Tara was excelling at her job in sun-soaked San Juan, Puerto Rico, Stephen, who had dreamed of working in politics, was holding down the fort at home as a soccer coach and self-proclaimed Mr. Mom to their two small children.
Stephen Grant loved taking care of his children. He was extremely present in their day-to-day lives.
They seemed to be making it work, but were they really?
Their public face of this couple seemed a lot more normal than what might have been simmering inside those doors.
What was simmering was heading toward a rapid boil. And it was Stephen's growing resentment that was fanning the flames.
I think that on some level, her ascension and his flatline being, left there with the kids, I think in the back of his mind, he certainly felt maybe a little bit emasculated by that.
So they fought, and Stephen sought the attention of another.
Steve had a girlfriend before he met Tara, and they had reconnected. He was looking for someone to make him feel wanted.
Maybe several someones. It seemed like he was also taking a fancy to the family's beautiful 18-year-old nanny, Verena.
The Grants had employed a German au pair who lived in their home to take care of their children. Stephen began to talk to her because she was the only person in the home with him, while Tara was working. And then their conversations turned sexual. He told her bluntly that he would like to sleep with her.
Was it just flirting, or did things become physical? Reportedly, a very jealous Stephen suspected Tara had someone on the side herself.
He found some things on her computer about a previous relationship, and it looked like that this relationship had been rekindled.
And he believed an affair with her boss was making Tara's weekly island getaways less work, more pleasure. Regardless of their actual or perceived dalliances, at least for the time being, they were staying together, until one night when it all went to hell. It is a freezing Friday evening in February when Tara arrives home from Puerto Rico and informs Stephen she's going back on Sunday, one day early.
They immediately began to argue. He had told her, this has to stop. You're gone all the time.
Reportedly, an angry Tara packs her bags and walks out the front door.
She went down the driveway and got into a car service, a black car service, and left.
So Tara leaves. Hours later, Stephen tries calling her.
Hi, this is the call from the Trey Grant. Please leave your message and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks.
It's after 2 by now. Quarter after 2. I just want to know what's going on. I think you owe me and your kids at least you owe a little bit of an explanation. Call me. Just call and let me know what the hell's going on. Bye.
Over the next few days, Stephen calls Tara several times but gets no answer. He also calls her boss in Puerto Rico and her family, but they aren't worried yet, saying,
She's probably just cooling her jets, and she's just staying away from you because she's angry, and you'll hear from her soon enough.
But after 5 days of desperately trying to find her, on Valentine's Day, Stephen reports Tara missing.
He came in, one of our deputies took a report from him, and it was immediately turned over to our detective bureau because it just really wasn't adding up.
The intense search is on.
It was a big deal because, frankly, attractive, well-educated executives didn't go missing in the Detroit suburbs.
High-powered, globe-trotting executive and mother of 2, Tara Grant is gone.
Where they lived, people did not just poof, go away.
Her husband, Stephen Grant, says after they argued one night, she left their suburban Detroit home and flew back early to her job in Puerto Rico. And he's been trying hard to find her for 5 days.
I think you owe me and your kids at least you owe a little bit of an explanation. Call me. Just call and let me know what the hell's going on.
Macomb County Sheriff's Detective Sergeant Pam McLean and her partner, Detective Brian Kozlowski, almost immediately believe something's amiss.
When we first got to the house, Stephen's very nervous. He was very fidgety. He was trying to be overly cooperative. And the more questions we started asking him, the more nervous he became.
But being nervous doesn't make someone guilty. And Tara is just missing. So detectives also look at others, wondering if another lover is connected to her disappearance. Or what about the nanny? The couple had been getting close in the days leading up to Tara's vanishing.
Their relationship had began approximately 4 to 6 weeks prior to Tara's disappearance, and it was escalating quickly.
The children were home sleeping the night their mother disappeared, but Verena was out. As the investigation continues, detectives are watching Stephen.
We set up surveillance on him. We knew that something wasn't right, and we believed that he had something to do with it.
In the meantime, Stephen is busy playing the distraught husband.
I hope Tara walks in that door right there.
Becoming a regular on the evening news.
If not, I hope myself has 10 messages from her when I walk back into the room.
Are people buying it?
Please, call anybody. Call the police. Call me. Call my in-laws. Call someone. If you see her, tell me. Please.
It was an Oscar-worthy performance. This is a guy who is now the star of the Stephen Grant show. Poor me.
Detectives are watching and closing in, chipping away at Stephen's implausible story.
We found out that she wasn't back in Puerto Rico. We had checked all the airlines. We knew her passport had not been used. We knew her credit card had not been used. And the cell phone records showed when her last call was made.
Then investigators catch a break when a woman walking through a local park sees a baggie tucked into a tree filled with some questionable items.
Gloves, the metal shavings, and blood that we later learned that it was in fact Tara's blood.
A bombshell. Police arranged to have the rest of the park searched, at the same time staying on Stephen.
At this point in time, Stephen had become somewhat uncooperative with us. All of our questions we had or anything had to go directly through an attorney. He had refused to take a polygraph for us. We had later learned that he had taken a private polygraph and that it came back as inconclusive.
3 weeks after Tara went missing, detectives get a search warrant for the Grant house. A knock at the door brings a team of investigators.
He was there in the beginning of the search when we got there.
Then Stephen asks if he can take the dog for a walk.
He was then free to leave. He was not being detained by us at that time.
As Stephen walks out of the house and into the cold winter night, the case takes a gruesome turn.
We were all standing in the garage, and my partner noticed this bin, and it looked a little out of place. And he opened it up, and he could see that there was a lot of plastic in there, and he kind of poked at it, and he could feel a little give. And he's like, that does not feel right.
Detectives cut open the plastic. What they find will sicken the most seasoned of investigators.
Inside the bag were the clothed remains of Tara Grant, at least part of her. Tara Grant was dead, and part of her was in her own garage.
My first thought or feeling was, we got him.
But did Stephen act alone? Stephen Grant is on the run. His wife, Tara Grant, had been missing for the last 3 weeks. But that all changed when a search of the family home yields the most gruesome of discoveries, her torso.
It was from her neck to her waist.
Found in a bin right next to a tub of her kids' toys.
He knew we were going to find it, and that's when he went on the run.
The manhunt for Stephen Grant is on.
The FBI is swarming the state, setting up a dragnet, a full-on search for him.
A suicidal Stephen borrows a car from a friend and heads north into the frigid Michigan night.
He makes this meandering trip all over the state of Michigan, and he remembers that he and Tara used to camp at the Wilderness State Park.
As he makes his way there, Stephen arms himself with alcohol, pills, razor blades, and something else.
He has purchased a toy gun, thinking that if he had a gun in his hand and he aimed it at police, they would shoot him.
After driving for hours, a desperate Stephen makes some final calls and writes his 2 young children goodbye letters.
He knew he wasn't going to win.
He was right.
His vehicle was located up at the park, and he was found outlined underneath a tree. He had extreme hypothermia, semi-conscious. He was seeing people and talking to trees, and he was in pretty bad shape. He was unairlifted, been taken to the local hospital.
Once Macomb County Sheriff's detectives McLean and Kozlowski arrive, they place Stephen Grant under arrest. But he wants to talk. Only their audio is recorded.
7:45 p.m., Northern Michigan Hospital, interview of Stephen Grant.
Little do detectives know the extent of the savage secrets Stephen's been hiding.
Okay, go on to February 9th, Friday.
Stephen says it all started in their bedroom when Tara was unpacking from her work trip and he was naked, getting ready for bed. A fight about Tara's busy work and travel schedule ensues. The argument quickly escalates. Tara slaps him across the face, then Stephen hits her.
She fell, and when she banged back her head on the floor, and then she said something like, that's it. I'm gonna take the kids, you're gonna be homeless, you're a piece of.
Enraged, Stephen does the unthinkable.
I choked her. I grabbed her neck and choked her. She finally grabbed my hand at one point, but it was too late. I couldn't stop her. I knew I was going to prison. I panicked.
As Stephen continues to strangle Tara,
she was looking into his eyes, and she was fighting with him, and he grabbed a piece of clothing and put it over her face so that he didn't have to see her while he was killing her.
After more than 4 minutes of callously choking the life out of his wife, Tara Grant is dead. Then, with their small children sleeping just feet away,
and I wrapped something, a belt, around her neck. I think it was my brown leather belt. I knew I couldn't carry her, so I wrapped that around her neck and I used it to basically pull her down the stairs.
Stephen, still naked, drags Tara's body into the freezing cold garage where he struggles getting her into the back of her own truck.
And I dropped her. It was the most disgusting noise. It just sounded like dropping a watermelon on the cement. I knew then that I had killed her.
Stephen eventually gets her into the SUV.
He put it in the back of her SUV and shut the door and went back into his house.
Moments later, the family's nanny, Verena, with whom he had had a flirtation, walks in the door. Stephen quickly dresses, then tells her the story he's concocted, that he and Tara fought and she walked out on him.
He wanted the nanny to feel sorry for him at this point. He was playing the "oh, my wife has left me" card.
Then Stephen begins a plan to cover his tracks.
He began to do things like call his wife's cell phone and leave messages, knowing, of course, that her body was in the family garage.
The next day, Stephen's scheme takes a grisly turn. After saying goodbye to his kids, he drives Tara's car with her body in the back to his father's machine shop.
He lays out a bunch of tarps on the floor, and he removes her body and places her on top of it, and he begins to dismember her.
I cut Tara's hands off, then I cut to the next joint, and the next joint, and same with her legs. And at some point I threw up, and I threw up again.
A shockingly barbaric act.
And then I just told myself, look, if you don't do this, you're going to prison for the rest of your life. And I kept cutting her up.
When Stephen finishes, he wraps the body parts in plastic and fills a large plastic bin to the brim with Tara.
I put everything, I think I put some newspaper in there because at one point there was some blood. It was real thick, like syrup.
So you had Tara's entire body in one?
In one Rubbermaid container.
Early the next morning, Stephen grabs his kid's sled and heads out into snowy Stony Creek Park. While standing on a hill, Stephen puts the bin on top of the sled, but before he knows it,
it was like Keystone Cops. The sled took off. And now I'm chasing after this sled that has my wife's cut up body in it down a hill. And I finally got it stopped when it fell over and it broke. And all these pieces have now fallen all over the place.
Stephen eventually gathers Tara's mutilated body parts and buries them around the park.
Stephen brought Tara's body and her remains into this area here. He was hoping that the wildlife within the park would eat the remains and therefore just leave bones, which would then make it a little easier to avoid detection.
Not that that would be her final resting place.
He moved her multiple times to multiple locations.
I've done a very, very bad job of hiding anything. It's right there in the open.
The way he was giving us his confession, it was as if he was just telling a story. He would laugh, he would joke, he showed no remorse. It was just telling a story.
Detectives also learned from Stephen what led to their big break, finding Tara's torso in the family garage. Turns out, when Stephen heard there was going to be a large-scale search of the park, he panicked, afraid the poorly hidden torso would be easily found.
He first removed it from the park, then took it to his father's business, and he put it on top of the office area up there. It remained there for approximately a day, at which time he moved it because he was afraid it was going to start smelling. And then that's when he took it to his garage.
But it was also when detectives showed up with that search warrant.
Our timing was just right. Fortunately for us, he had just moved her torso back there the night before.
Investigators would eventually locate most of Tara's remains, but not all.
I believe there were 14 parts, but they only recovered 11.
And they'd also find some of the saw blades Stephen used.
We recovered some with some of Tara's flesh still on them.
Detectives now know Stephen Grant did this despicable act all by himself. The nanny had nothing to do with it. 9 months after Grant is arrested for the brutal slaying of his wife, the case goes to trial. And after 3 weeks of testimony, Stephen Grant is found guilty of second-degree murder and mutilation of a corpse. He's sentenced to 50 to 80 years.
She certainly didn't deserve to die like that.
Andrea Billups has co-written a book about Tara's murder called A Slaying in the Suburbs, and she says while justice has technically been served, no amount of punishment can replace what's been lost.
I think the great sadness of this case, obviously, was for these children who were 4 and 6 at the time this murder occurred. So now they'd lost their mother, and their father was going to prison for what certainly will amount to the rest of his life. It's just an enormous tragedy.
I just shot at him, and I thought I shot him in the face. I thought he was dead, and so he fell to the ground, and I took a picture of him, of his face, because I didn't want to look at his face, and so I did that. And
what was the purpose of taking a picture, if you don't mind me asking?
I didn't know if I had shot his eyes out or shot his visitor's brain. Just it's easier for me to look at the picture.
Capital murder is punishable by life in prison or the death penalty.
If you had to choose, I'd rather just get the death penalty. I mean, I kill people, I deserve to die too. It's better if I just go. That would be best for my children if I could just get the death penalty and go.
At first glance, Amanda Taylor seems like any other 20-something in America. Piercings, tattoos, and endless selfies on social media. Amanda loved to hang with friends like Johnny Roebuck.
My wife, Mariah, was best friends growing up with Amanda. Then I met Rex, and we just hit it off.
Rex was Amanda's husband. She had a young son living in Christiansburg, Virginia, in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains.
They had a very strong connection, and you could tell that they loved each other very much.
That love connection was bonded in a lust for blood, a fetish for murder.
They were the type of people that they liked serial killers. It's a hobby for some people, I guess.
And for Amanda, that hobby turned into an obsession. Johnny says she fantasized about becoming a serial killer.
I think a lot of it has to do with the thrill of murder. She had this voodoo over him to where he would do anything to make her happy.
But before Rex could help his princess bride achieve her deadly dream, tragedy would hit their marriage.
I saw Rex's grandmother outside. I lived next door in the other apartment building, and she was hysterical, and she told me that Buckshot killed himself, and that was Rex's nickname that she had given him a long time ago when Charlie had just found him. It was still early in the morning.
A grief-stricken Amanda blamed Rex's dad, Charlie, claiming he helped feed his son's addiction to pills.
In my opinion, Charlie caused him to be addicted to them. I know it was Rex's choice to, take the medicine and abuse it. But without a steady supply from his father, things could have been different.
Amanda soon found another soulmate who shared her vision of hell. His name, Sean Ball.
It was never a romance there at all, but you could tell that Sean liked Amanda. And I think Amanda knew that too. He was just wanting to do anything to impress her.
And in Amanda's sick world, what better way for Sean to impress her than claiming he's a killer?
He claimed to be this ex-Special Forces Navy man. He claimed to have been involved in combat and killing in combat, when actually Sean Ball lived a separate life. And none of those things that he claimed were actually true. He was a very shy person, portrayed himself to Amanda Taylor as being this person and being like-minded in her desires to carry out a murder spree. Okay.
Homicide detective Robert New tells Crime Watch Daily Sean and Amanda worked out their sinister plan with military precision.
The two were in possession of weapons, firearms. Those had been stolen from a relative's house, and that they had already purchased ammunition and magazines for those same weapons. It appeared that they were both in agreement with what was going to occur, and that was going to start with the murder of Charles Taylor.
Charlie Taylor, Amanda's father-in-law, the man she blames for her husband's suicide, and how she will exact revenge on Charlie will send chills up your spine. On a spring afternoon, Amanda and Sean went to Charlie's ramshackle house in nearby Ironto, Virginia. At exactly 3:27 p.m., the number that signifies the birthdays of Rex and Amanda, the murder of Charlie Taylor begins. Amanda starts stabbing. Sean is crushing the man's head with a tire iron. Then Amanda goes in for the kill, plunging the knife deep into Charlie. But Amanda isn't done yet. Amanda did something outrageous, taking her sick selfie, posting it on her social media accounts, calling herself the brunette bomber posing in front of Charlie's body. The knife still dripping blood, the instrument of death in the hand of the devil incarnate.
Working the crime scene that day, we actually had a picture. We were almost standing in the same spot where she was standing when she took the selfie, putting the picture taken by her right next to it. The only thing missing from our shot was her.
A brazen Amanda asked this crime writer we'll call Natasha to post her selfie on her Tumblr blog. We're keeping her identity secret for her own protection.
When I saw that selfie and the smirk on her face, I just felt sick to my stomach. She looked so proud of what she had done, and I just couldn't believe it.
Natasha refused to post the picture and immediately called the cops.
This was life or death, and you know, she's saying that she's going to kill more innocent people. Something inside me just snapped, and I felt like if I could talk her down, if I could save one life, like, it will be worth it. It will be worth it.
Amanda and her accomplice, Sean Ball, are on the run and pursuing their next victim.
After the murder, they obtained money, they obtained fuel, and they left the area and went to Tennessee.
Surveillance video from gas stations along the way helps cops follow the trail. At this sporting goods store, they load up on ammo, and they stop at a Fleabag motel in Tennessee and spend the night.
At that point, Amanda was ready to start this killing spree. But Sean began to have second thoughts. He started to try to talk to her about maybe just going on the run, to hiding out, laying low. She wanted to fulfill this desire. And the next day, they left to go do that.
At a rest stop on the Blue Ridge Parkway, Amanda spots two young college-age girls who she thinks could be her next victims.
So she told Sean that she was going to bring these two girls over and that he was going to kill them, that they needed their money and that he was going to do this. And so she got out to go bring these two girls to their vehicle so that he could shoot them. As she brings them over there, Sean refuses to do it.
Amanda fast becomes furious with Sean.
When Amanda saw this made her very, very angry. She got back into the vehicle and drove off again. Turned up onto the parkway one more time where she had planned to kill Sean Ball.
Now she turns on her accomplice, and it's Sean who finds himself in Amanda's crosshairs.
She stopped the vehicle on the parkway, took the revolver that went around to the passenger side where Sean had his eyes closed. She claimed that she had saw a jogger just ahead of her. She aimed the weapon at that jogger and pulled the trigger. This startled Sean Ball awake. She took that weapon and pointed it at him and said, "I want you to know before you die that I used you for your guns and your car, and I hope you die." Then she pulled the trigger, shooting Sean Ball in the face.
Amanda leaves Sean for dead on the side of the road. She callously snaps a picture of his face.
Amanda was a very cold individual.
And now she's all alone. Calls crime blogger Natasha.
She would call me on a burner phone. She would destroy it, get another one, and in between those calls, I would be calling the police and relaying the information that she was giving me.
Cops finally spot Amanda driving in North Carolina. She makes a final call to Natasha asking for advice.
I was on the phone with Amanda Taylor when she got arrested. The police are closing in on her, and I was trying to talk her down because she wanted to go out shooting.
Natasha talked her out of it and records audio of the bust.
If you don't cooperate, you're not going to get home. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I talked her down. I talked her down and got her to put her gun down.
Police pull Amanda out of the car and slap the cuffs on her. In her mugshot, she looks smug, almost like she's proud about what she did.
I spoke to her about 4 or 5 hours after she was arrested, and she was excited to see me.
In the interrogation room, Amanda acts like she hasn't a care in the world, sipping a soft drink and playing with her hair before Captain Robert New and another detective come in.
You have the right to remain silent.
Amanda waives her right to remain silent and admits everything.
I killed Charlie at 3:27. I purposely did that.
Why did you purposely? What happened on 3?
Because that's mine and Rex's day. That's our birthday. We have the same birthday.
Okay.
That was always our thing, was 3:27.
Mm-hmm.
But I started stabbing him. I had a knife. It's a knife Sean got me for my birthdays. And so I just started stabbing him, and he stopped moving, and Sean hit him to make sure he was dead.
Do you remember where you stabbed Charlie at? Where the places that you stabbed him at?
I tried really hard to stab him in his chest.
How did you get the blood off of you?
I had there was none on me. I got like one little drop on me, but it was mainly, I guess, since the knife was so big, that it didn't really come back out on me or something. I don't know. But there was a bottle of Febreze in the Jeep, and I just sprayed it on there.
She had really no emotion about it. She described it as if she was baking bread.
Then Amanda learns that her accomplice, Sean, isn't dead. The bullet passed right through his jaw, causing him to pass out from the pain, but with no permanent effects.
I just shot at him, and I thought I shot him in the face. I thought he was dead, and so he fell to the ground, and I took a picture of him, of his face, because I didn't want to look at his face, and so I did that. And
what was the purpose of taking a picture, if you don't mind me asking?
I didn't know if I had shot his eyes out or shot his visitor's brain. It's easier for me to look at the picture.
And in a chilling revelation, Amanda says she wants the death chamber.
Capital murder is punishable by life in prison or the death penalty.
If you had to choose, I'd rather just get the death penalty. I mean, I kill people, I deserve to die too. It's better if I just go. That would be best for my children if I could just get the death penalty and go.
But in a stunning reversal, Amanda pleads not guilty and stands trial.
She did this for attention. By pleading not guilty, she got the ability to have this case told.
It took the jury only 30 minutes to convict Amanda. Guilty of first-degree murder. The sentence, life in prison. The judge calling her evil personified. Sean Ball copped a plea deal, guilty in exchange for a 60-year sentence, suspended after 41 years. Thanks to crime blogger Natasha's tips to detectives and the dogged determination of cops in 3 states, this cold-blooded killer was stopped in her tracks.
I will say this, we never kissed. We never kissed. Yes, we did have sex in the back of the vehicle there, and after that day, I felt absolutely terrible about that.
If I left from here and I went and talked to Grandma right now, and I laid down this whole story that you're saying, what's Grandma gonna say?
I just want to go home, and I just want to explain to Mom and Grandma exactly what happened. I was a nervous wreck thinking, what do I do? What do I do? I wanted to make it look like she got strangled there in the woods.
Then Shelton's confession concludes with this head-shaking exchange.
Am I going to be able to get my contact solution and take my contacts out and toothbrush?
I don't think so.
I can't take my contacts out either?
It's the walk every policeman dreads.
We knew that this was not going to be a happy outcome.
Deep into the dark woods in search of a body, knowing the gruesome nightmare they'll find.
Stand by, I'm on a 21.
Led there by a suspected killer, who's not only told them where to find his victim, but how he killed her.
He used his foot for leverage to choke as hard as he could, and the belt broke.
Hey, shine your light at that tree over there.
Police cameras are rolling as the search party stalks through the tangled overgrowth.
Okay.
To a clearing and the body of 17-year-old Ashley Reeves.
Oh, hey, right there.
But in this shocking tale of terror,
Lieutenant, if I could get some light, please.
Everything changes in the blink of an eye.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Before that horrific night, Ashley Reeves was a funny and bright high school junior. Excellent student, good daughter, has a steady boyfriend, Jeremy Smith. Her younger sister, Casey, tells our Elizabeth Smart Ashley was the one she always looked up to.
She was very motivated. She was a strong person. She was always out. She had a lot of friends. She was very dedicated to school. She knew what she was going to do in life.
What kind of girl did Ashley seem like she was?
Ashley seemed like a very ordinary Midwestern girl, very down to earth. According to her parents, she didn't give them much trouble.
But trouble would find Ashley on the horrible night she'd meet a monster in the woods. It's a Thursday afternoon in April. Ashley leaves her parents' house in Millstead, Illinois for an appointment in Fairview Heights, a town almost 15 miles away.
Did she tell you where she was going?
She drove me home from school and she told me she was going to a job interview.
She's driving an SUV belonging to her boyfriend. But that night, Ashley wouldn't come home.
It was like 10:30. It was our curfew time. My parents were asking, hey, have you talked to your sister? You know, how'd it go? Did she call you about the interview? Did it go good?
But Casey hadn't heard from Ashley. In fact, none of her friends had.
Something was different with this case. This missing girl, Ashley Reeves, was not answering even text from any of her friends. And one thing we know with young ladies is they will maybe not answer their parents, but they will answer their friends.
Something's not right. Ashley's mom calls police in a panic.
Unfortunately, we get a few calls that are like that, and the vast majority of them are either maybe they just stayed out too long with a friend or something like that. But there was something with her voice that really sounded very stressful. And I said, you know, Captain, this one sounds a little bit different. I think we probably need to run with this one right away. It wasn't too much longer after that, Ashley's car that she had been driving was found at Latterman Park here in Belleville.
Inside Jeremy's abandoned SUV are Ashley's outfit for the job interview and basketball clothes, but no sign of Ashley.
I feel like the police also started to get a little bit more worried, and then the actual questions started rolling, like, when did you last see her? Like, where she was supposed to be, looking for her boyfriend. Where was he? Was he actually where he said he was?
Ashley's boyfriend Jeremy is a parent's dream, wholesome, forthright, seemed to adore their daughter. But now investigators want to talk to him.
When you start dealing with missing people, you generally tend to focus on the people who are closest around him. Go ahead and have a seat there.
Detectives put Jeremy in the hot seat.
You are Ashley's boyfriend, is that correct?
Yeah.
How often do you see her?
Once a day, usually.
Once a day, so I mean you guys are pretty serious.
Yeah. Believe me, I seriously am giving you my 100% all, telling you the truth. I mean, I love her. I love her to death. Anything to get her back. You know, I've cried, but I mean, I'm just so tore up about it.
Jeremy tells detectives he was out of town the night Ashley went missing. He doesn't know a thing.
I was with my uncle's band out at Stratford Bar and Grill, and she said if I get a chance, call her.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean, I wish I would have called her now.
He seemed like he cared for Ashley quite a bit, but I had a strong feeling that he didn't really know anything that was going on.
But then the young man's interview yields a game-changing clue.
And when was the last time that you talked to her?
It was yesterday it was around noonish, between like 11 and 1. She said, I'm going to go to this interview, and I'm going to go play basketball.
Why would, you know, a young female want to, you know, play basketball in a park far away from school?
A friend tells police Ashley would often meet a man at a park to play ball, someone they all knew, 27-year-old Samson Shelton, and a popular teacher and coach who lives nearby with his mom and grandma. The night Ashley disappeared, the good old boy is caught on tape doing the boot scoot at Wild Country Dance Club.
My mom had actually talked to Sam that night, and he said, no, haven't heard from her, haven't seen her. Hung up like it was no big deal.
But friends say Shelton is a big deal. Ashley told them she was romantically involved with a much older man and was supposed to meet him that afternoon.
He was actually considered at the time a minor lead. because what had been told to us was he was a friend of Ashley's, that they would just kind of play basketball together.
Detectives pulled the young coach out of baseball practice for an interview.
Just state your name for the record.
Sam Shelton.
A very friendly and cooperative Shelton tells investigators, despite what Ashley had said, his relationship with the teen was purely platonic.
Well, I'd give her like a hug goodbye. I would do that. That's not sexual, is it? To give someone a hug goodbye.
He also says he's been dodging Ashley for days.
I think she kind of started becoming obsessed with me. Because like I said, she was calling me literally nonstop at times.
But then a dramatic turn. When pressed by police with statements from Ashley's friends, Shelton changes his story, telling cops their relationship went further than a goodbye hug. A lot further.
I will say this, we never kissed. We never kissed. Yes, we did have sex in the back of the vehicle there, and after that day, I felt absolutely terrible about that.
Originally, he had said they were friends, and then he had said that they played basketball, and then he had said he wanted a relationship with her, and then he had said at some point he was trying to break off the relationship with her. He had changed the story so much that a person who didn't have anything to hide, why would you change it that much?
Do you want to complain about what's been going on, or do you want to continue to just dig a deeper and deeper hole? Because the ship is sinking. We just continue to catch him in lies. It was lie after lies.
Then a second bombshell explodes. Ashley was in Shelton's car the day before. He tells police they had an argument, and he left her by the side of the road. But Shelton's story ends with Ashley alive.
She was screaming, kicking, everything. Put her down, shut the door, ran the car. I took off. I left her. I left her there, is what I did. I left her out there by Radio Range Road. I left her right out there.
Why was Shelton more concerned with line dancing that night than with Ashley's well-being? His answer is as cold-blooded as it is unbelievable.
I did not want to drive by there, because if I would have drove by there, and if I would have seen her, like, I don't know, if she got hit by a car or something and she was laying over there in a ditch, if I would have seen that, I could not stand that. I mean, I have an absolute fear. I have a very weak stomach when it comes to like gore movies. I can't even watch those. I still have in my head from the that new Texas Chainsaw Massacre that came out of it. Have you seen that movie? If I would see her laying on the side of the road right there, it just, I don't know. I would have felt absolutely horrible.
You mean to tell me that this is a person that you cared for, and that you left her on the side of the road, but you didn't even try to talk to her or call her after that? I said, I find it hard to believe.
The detectives hammer at Shelton's account for hours.
If I had any other information about her, I would let you know.
But Shelton refuses to stray from his story.
And it was points, I'm going to be honest with you, where I was just like, this guy's not giving us anything.
Then an unbelievable twist of fate. On a bathroom break, Shelton runs into the department's lead detective, Stephen Johnson.
Did you have any prior knowledge of him or his family?
He was an explorer in our law enforcement explorer post. I was an advisor. It's a part of the Boy Scouts, and they learn about law enforcement.
Johnson takes over the interview, looking for an angle that will break down Shelton's barriers.
Tell us about the mistake that was made, Sam.
20 minutes later, Shelton crumbles at the mention of one name.
If I left from here and I went and talked to Grandma right now, and I laid down this whole story that you're saying, what's Grandma gonna say?
I just want to go home, and I just want to explain to Mom and Grandma exactly what happened.
Playing the grandma card may be the only way left to break Shelton and find Ashley. So Johnson doubles down on the heartache.
Your grandma's not here.
I know.
Your mom's not here.
No,
but you know what? In a way they are. Because everything they taught you, all the talks Grandma had with you, are within you. All of them are. And unfortunately right now, Sam, you ain't telling us the truth. And you need to. You have to. For Mom. For Grandma.
That was finally the first time when real tears were coming out.
Johnson leaves the weeping Shelton alone.
I'll come back, okay?
Just long enough for the guilt to sink in.
When he asked to be alone, I knew he was ready to confess.
What's going on, Sam?
Can I go show you what happened?
Please. She's still out there, Sam? She is? And where's it at?
I have to show you.
Once he said, I'm going to take you to her, my job kind of kicked into high gear.
Shelton dragged Ashley far into the trees of this public park the previous afternoon. But now, under the cover of night and rain, Shelton can't get his bearings.
70, car.
Okay, came in there. I don't know, I came in the woods and I just started moving.
Ashley's body could be anywhere.
Can you walk up there and shine your light over there?
It was dark, it was rainy, it was cold. The woods were so thick.
Did you ever think maybe she's not here? Maybe this is just another lie?
After we had walked through the woods for probably 20, 30 minutes or so, I was beginning to wonder if he was maybe just kind of taking us on a wild goose chase and kind of just playing with us again.
I'm wondering if looking back too far, unless it looks familiar to you, Sam.
Then hearts stop.
Oh, hey, right there.
As flashlights land on a grisly discovery. Ashley Reeves' broken body.
Lieutenant, if I could get some light, please.
She was laying on the ground, on her back, obviously deceased.
There was thousands of insect bites all over her. She'd been out there for a long time.
30 excruciating hours. Then a miracle.
Oh my God, we found her. She's alive.
Wow.
Back at the police station, these evidence photos show Sam Shelton barely had a mark on him. When Detective Johnson finally hears his confession, he knows why. Ashley never had a chance to put up much of a fight.
And when I took the belt, I pulled.
They got into some sort of an argument, and she would not get out of his car. He claims he got her into a wrestling chokehold, and when he did that, he heard her neck pop, and she went limp. He didn't know what to do. He said that he panicked at that point.
Now just listen as Shelton describes what he did next. Be warned, his heartless, almost childlike confession will turn your stomach.
I was a nervous wreck thinking, what do I do? What do I do? I wanted to make it look like she got strangled there in the woods.
So he choked her.
I took the belt, I pulled. I pulled it on her neck. I don't know how long I held on. I had to turn my head because I didn't want to see. And all of a sudden I heard like a gurgle. And then all of a sudden when I heard the gurgle, I let go. And when I let go, she had spit, foam, coming out of her mouth. And then I'd seen that she was the sickest color I'd ever seen. Her tongue was like kind of protruding, like between the teeth.
He then used his foot for leverage to choke as hard as he could, and the belt broke. So he repositioned one more time and choked until there was no more breathing, no more froth, no more changing of the facial color, and he left her in the middle of these woods.
So based on what he said, he's snapped her neck and left her for dead.
Yes, ma'am.
Then Shelton's confession concludes with this head-shaking exchange.
Am I going to be able to get like my contact solution and take my contacts out and toothbrush? And
I don't think so.
I can't take my contacts out either?
Reality has yet to sink in for this self-absorbed 26-year-old who doesn't seem all that concerned about the girl he admittedly tried to strangle in the woods.
Am I able to get like a little private toilet because I can't pee when there's people around because of my urinary stress disorder?
Yeah, I don't know, Sam. Well, I'll tell them that that's what you want, but I don't know if they'll be able to do that.
Because I'll be miserable if I can't pee.
Yeah.
To go on like it was just business as usual was just...
I mean, that for me makes it even more chilling.
Shelton pleads guilty to attempted first-degree murder and is sentenced to 20 years in prison. But what about Ashley, the 17-year-old girl Shelton heartlessly threw out in the woods to die?
She's tough. One of the toughest people that you would meet.
It's a toughness born out of a slow and grueling return from near death. The road to recovery has been long, painful, and heartbreaking.
Do you remember the first time you saw Ashley again?
I do.
What was that like?
Terrifying. I just stood there. I just stared at her. She was in this neck brace and the room just seemed so empty and she just laid there and didn't move and couldn't look at me, and I felt like she couldn't hear me, she couldn't talk to me, and it was terrifying.
They had to retrain me how to eat and how to drink.
Oh, wow.
I remember my first drink of water, and it was amazing.
But Ashley has never lost her will to survive.
Do you feel it's important to share your story?
I feel it is important. I mean, people who think that they are just give up, it's not. Don't give up. Don't ever give up on yourself. There's bigger, better things out there. I've gone through plenty of hardships, and it's just keep fighting. Every day it's a struggle, but you just gotta keep on charging.